Chairman, I can understand the point of the Department of Finance. I think they're talking of how much, what is the financial implication here, about 6 billion or 4 billion?
About 4 billion.
4 billion, which would exacerbate the projected 300 billion pesos or so deficit of the government. Although, if we are talking of the deficit here, I think we'll still end up with a deficit, except that we're going to increase the declared revenue of the government, but the bottom line will still be the same, because once that subsidy is applied, then that will be an expense on the part of the government. Now, if we are going to look the way that the DOF would like us to look, would that matter be a matter that this committee can decide on? Because that may become an appropriation matter, because there must be an appropriation for subsidy. Here, we are granting incentives for tax exemption, but if it's going to be a subsidy, it will have to be an appropriation matter, and this is going to delay the, we are not going to ease the discomfort of the central bank, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it's a matter for the committee, no? It's a jurisdiction. Is there any question of tax exemption?
If we decide on the subsidy, if we accept the proposal of the Department of Finance, my question is that going to be under the jurisdiction of this committee, or do we have to go to the Committee on Appropriations? Because my thinking is to provide subsidy, one has to appropriate a certain amount for subsidy.
Yes, but after decided that we'll no longer accept it, and it's going to be a tax subsidy. But anyway, it doesn't impact on deficit anyway. There's no impact. Because you have real income and same, the liability column, you have an expenditure. The tax expenditure. But your debt also increases.
Maybe the BIR will listen to declare incentives for the staff. Maybe about 4 billion.
Whatever is the amount in absolute terms of this proposed exemption on open market operation transaction is more than made up by the annual increases in other income of the central bank and further augmented by the dividend that they declare to the national government. All that the DOF must watch out for is that the central bank is declaring their dividends properly. And I can give you documents that they are not. In fact, next week you can collect 17 billion from the central bank if you will only insist. And I also want to alert the BIR, this is confirmed by audit of the COA.
Mr. Chairman. I think there's no reason for us to give a tax exemption if they're not declaring correct dividends to the national government. We should not give them a bribe.
Mr. Chairman, the objective of the open market, the objective of the tax exemption is not to add further cost to a turnover business that seeks to stabilize the economy, to put liquidity into it or siphon liquidity as needed depending upon the dynamic situation occurring in the financial markets, Mr. Chairman. So it's less the exemption as so much the objective that it is proposed to arrive. And in fact, the other exemptions that we will propose after we have disposed of this, Mr. Chairman, is also related to the cost effect rather than the revenue impact.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Lest the public misinterprets the Bangko Central operations. Mr. Chairman, the issue of the so-called misdeclaration derives from the classification of accounts that should be removed or excluded from the dividends that has to be declared to the national government. We've always maintained that we need to provide for any possible foreign exchange fluctuations or for any possible loss in the discharge of our responsibilities. And I think that is just consistent with risk management. Second point, Mr. Chairman, we challenge the amount of 4 billion that would represent the foregone income of the Department of Finance from the central bank. If you look at the financial statement of the central bank for the first 11 months of 2009, the open market operations that are being referred to, from which our income will be taxed, is only for the RRORP, reverse the repurchase papers, Mr. Chairman. And we derive the income from these operations to the tune of only 11.8 million, not billion. In the case of our RRP, this is when we borrow from the banks, we spent in interest expense, how much did we pay? About 44 billion, Mr. Chairman. Wala naman kami binayaran doon sa gobyerno at hindi rin naman, talaga naman wala namang, dahil inano ng BIR yun, that is a governmental function. Okay? We are not talking about that. We have been exempted from that. So there's no foregone income that the DOF should be talking about at this point. The second point I want to clarify, Mr. Chairman, is that they said that tax exempting the central banks around the region or elsewhere is not the norm. Let me just, for the record, cite that the Hong Kong Monetary Authority is exempted from all types of taxes. Malaysia is also, Bank Negara Malaysia, is also exempted from all types of taxes, whether open market operations, real estate, or other things. Thailand, the Bank of Thailand is also exempted. New Zealand is also exempted. Indonesia is exempted from paying for open market operations. Singapore is also exempted from OMO. Australia is exempted for OMO and income tax, but earnings available for distribution after transfers to reserve funds maintained for contingencies are paid as dividend to the Commonwealth government. So, Mr. Chairman, we take exception to that. The third point, Mr. Chairman, is the issue of timeliness. It is true that the national government is poised to realize some big deficit for 2010. We don't know what happened to 2009. But since the foregone income that we are talking about here, Mr. Chairman, is also is very small, I think the issue of timeliness is not extremely relevant in this issue. And any tax exemption that may be granted to the Bangko Sentral is given